Hello, welcome to Mad Dog Radio with your host, Mad Dog Madden. The new LGAHLPSN news. I'll be covering players, teams, stats, as well as trying to get some interviews in. I won't be having one on this show, but hopefully in the future I'll have some great interviews lined up for you guys. With that being said, let's jump right into it, shall we? Alright. First thing I want to go over with, as you guys know, we're well into week 4 now. Week 5. Week 4 just finished. And first we'll look at the Eastern Atlantic Division. First off, you got Hershey Bears up top, 49 points. Bridgeport Sound Tigers following behind is second. Right behind them is the Thunderbirds with 34 points. And fourth, you got Providence Bruins. And then on the outside looking in, you have the Phantoms, the Wolfpack, and Wilkes-Barre Scranton, which I have to say, I'm not trying to hate on them or anything, but a 10-game losing streak, that's one hell of a hole to climb out of. Well, as I'm sure everyone already knows, this division is pretty much getting run away with by Hershey. The Sound Tigers, the Thunderbirds, and the Bruins, they've been interchanging spots all through the first 4 weeks. The Phantoms were up there for a little bit, but they got knocked down. I'm sure everyone sees it at the end of the weeks. A lot of these teams in this division are constantly switching players. Makes me wonder if all the trading is either helping or making things worse. Sometimes you just got to ride people out and see what they got. 1 week doesn't show everything. I'm not saying they all trade their players after 1 week, but you never know. Sometimes it takes a while for guys to get chemistry going and get everything in gear to start putting the wins together and playing like a team. When you constantly trading players all the time, it's kind of hard to get that chemistry going and put those wins together. Like, even I'm on Hershey, for example, and I know we're up there with 49 points, but I can't honestly say that I feel like our team is running at 100% chemistry right now. But I know if we were constantly trading players, it'd probably be even worse. So, just some food for thought on that issue. Since there's not really a whole lot going on in this division, besides, one team, we're just going to go on down to the Eastern North. Now, the Eastern North, this is a pretty tight race, almost between all the teams. You got the Senators tied for first, 52 points. Syracuse Crunch also tied for first, 52 points. And the Marlies, it's a 3-way tie. And to be honest, there are a lot of good teams in this division. It doesn't start really falling off in this division until probably about, I'm going to say, St. John's. I feel like the Rochester Americans are a decent team. Maybe not a top-tier team, but I don't think they're terrible. Now, the Devils and the Ice Caps, they got some things to work out. As you can see, they're usually one of the top teams trading players, kind of like what I said about the other division. These two teams every week, I see them in the shout box or reading through the news log with multiple trades. And kind of what I said again earlier, I don't understand how you expect to keep a competitive team when you're constantly interchanging parts. Like, I'm not saying don't make trades to get people that you feel are better and that you think are going to work out better, but are you getting people that you don't even know? Are you trading for people who you know can work out, or are you trading for people that you just hoping to God that somehow they fit in? I don't really know what the strategy behind that is. Hopefully I'll get some of these guys in for some interviews and I could ask them these questions, because really curious to find out exactly what the thought process is going into that. Anyways, the Senators, the Crunch, and the Marlies, all great teams. Um, I believe the North is playing the Atlantic this week, so uh, it's going to be some heated battles between Hershey and I guess those other teams. I'm not so sure about the other teams in the division, but we'll see. Probably if East or North is probably looking at the Atlantic right now like it's going to be an easy week, and can't really blame them for that. I gotta say, if I had to pick a top team out of the three that are tied for first in this division, uh, you know, not having played any of them yet, just purely off speculation and what I read and the players on the team, I think I would have to go with the Crunch. I thought the Crunch were a good team from the beginning of the season. I know they didn't have a great start, but they sure are putting it together. They finished the week out with a 3-win streak. They tied it up with the Senators and the Marlies. So you really can't beat that. I know the Marlies had a huge lead in the beginning of the season, but they seem to have strung together some losses. So in the last 10, if you see 4-4-2, that's not how you're going to hold on to a lead in any division, let alone this one where all the other teams are playing at a high level. Even if you look at the Comets, they went 6-4. Even the Americans went 5-4-1. If there's anything I could say after AGM and the Chicago Wolves last season, put a couple of those 4-4-2 weeks together, and you're not going to make it to the playoffs. And that's speaking from experience. But I'm sure the Marlies seem like a good squad. I'm sure they'll be able to string together some wins like they did earlier in the season. All right, moving on to the West Central. Big Freeze and the Cleveland Monsters up on top, 56 points. Iowa Wild, 52 points. I feel like I'm reading the Western Central from last season. Only difference is Manitoba moves here up at third. Then they were not even close to that this part in the season last season. They're on a 4-game win streak, 47 points. That's pretty good. Seems like Vibes does know what he's doing. Then you got the Grand Rapid Griffins, my boy Killer Scotch's team. They ended on a 3-win streak, 45 points. Damn, that's a pretty good last 10 right there, 8-1-1. Can't really argue with that. I was a little concerned for this Grand Rapids Griffins team before after week 1. And then in the week 2, they kind of still didn't seem like they were getting it together. But I'll tell you what, Killer Scotch last season, I remember he took over, I think it was the Providence Bruins. Well, it was like midway through the season, or at least maybe 3/4 of the way. And he turned that team around into a decent team. That's why I was a little shocked when the Griffins didn't get off to a hot start. But I'll tell you what, Scotch must know what he's doing running the team, because here he is working his team right back up in there. Even with the slow start, he's turning around. They're getting hot. They're scoring goals. 149 goals for. That's pretty good. I know I played them, I believe it was week 2 or week 3. No, I think it was week 2. And they beat us in overtime. That sucked. I hate losing in overtime. Anyways, on to the Checkers. They were up in the top 4 before, and they seem to have slipped. They're on a 2-game losing streak, but they're not far out. Right, 2 points behind the Griffins with 43. The Checkers, they got a decent team. Can't say, that any of the guys on this team are absolute stunners, but I can't say any of them are absolute shitters either. So I'm kind of interested to see what happens with the Checkers, if they keep going on a losing streak or a win streak. To be honest, I think it could go either way, in my opinion. It's hard to tell with them. Here's a pleasant surprise. Chicago Wolves, after pulling up dead last in the last couple of weeks, have moved all the way up to 6th place and on a 3-game winning streak, went 7-3-0 in their last 10. pretty good stats. They're going to need them. They're going to need to keep going on this streak. They're going to have to put together a lot of wins to even make it to fourth place in this division. You got the Monsters, the Wild, and the Moose, and the Griffins. They're all rolling hot. So I mean, at no means, if you're on the bottom of the Western Central right now, can you afford to give away any games. You got to try to find a way to get at least 1 point per game, bring it to overtime, something to claw your way back up in there. Because at the current rate it's going, it's any losses or setbacks is going to be a tough hole to climb out of in this division. All right, and then you got the Admirals, 37, and the Ice Hogs, 27th. I don't know what it is about the Ice Hogs. They struggled last season. They're struggling this season. Uh, I know that they supposedly won it. What was it, season 2? But then all the stuff with the dual accounts, I'm not going to get into that. But it seems like ever since that, the team kind of has a little bit of a curse on it and can't seem to get their act together. Well, moving on to the Western Pacific. Up top, San Jose Barracuda. Pretty good team. I've played them. I don't know if it's their actual team, but I played them in club matchup a few times. They're a pretty solid team. You can't just walk over these guys, as you can tell with the 53 points. I will say they had a bigger lead before. They're kind of letting the other teams climb back up in here. Their last 10, 5-3-2. Like I was saying before, it's hard to hold on to any division lead when you can't get 6 or more wins a week. Like, if you're in first place in a division, you pretty much got to hope to get at least 6 wins a week at the least to stay up top. Because all the other teams behind you all have extra motivation to take your spot. So if you're sitting up number 1, you got to try even harder. It's not, a lot of people think like, oh, we're number 1. Oh, we could relax. All the other games are going to be easy. No, as soon as you hit number 1, teams are putting their better lineups against you. If you are an unknown team, now you're known. People are taking notice. They're going to study you more and find out what you're doing and try to shut you down. Because those other teams want the points. You can't blame them. All right, Ontario Reign. Ontario Reign, 52 points, second place. Going out, 2 losses at the end of the week. It's a terrible way to end the week, but their last 10, 7-2-1, so apparently they were winning on the beginning of the week, so that's sweet. I know that Fairman's in charge of this team, and he's a pretty good player. I have to say, I had him on season 2 when I was a CHL owner, and he's a pretty smart guy, so I'm not surprised to see his team sitting in second place with 52 points. Number 3, you got the Texas Stars, 47 points, 7-2-1 in their last 10. And just kind of mirror what I said before. I mean, look at the guys in first place, 5-3-2, and everyone under 7-2-1, 7-2-1. You got San Diego Gulls, 42 points, 8-2-0 in their last 10. I mean, when you're in first place, you gotta put them wins together, because look at these guys under here. They're trying hard. I gotta say, San Diego Gulls, that's a pretty good last 10. Like, that's a pretty stout week. I know before week 4 started, the Heat were sitting in 4th place, and now they got bumped out to 5th place, and they're sitting at 40 points. They went 6-4 in their last 10. That's a decent week. Can't really complain about that. I know I'm happy with a 6-4 week. You got the Tucson Roadrunners. They're sitting at 34 points. They're still hanging in there, though. They string a couple wins together, and they could get right back up in there. I would say nothing's really too out of reach in this division yet. Still all fairly close. The only 2 teams I'm worried about in this division would be the Rampage and the Condors. Both sitting at 25 points, tied for last, or tied for 7th, I guess, whichever way you want to look at it. You got to be worried about teams when you look at their records and they have 176 goals against and 100 goals for, or in the Condors' case, 161 goals against and 97 goals for. Uh, that's not good stats. I mean, that's never going to win games when you're playing. I don't know if they're playing such terrible defense or I know my team, the Bears, played the Rampage, and they put up 16 goals. I wasn't in that game, which sucks because that'd have been nice. But they really gave them the business. I mean, I didn't expect them to do that, but when they did it, I definitely was enjoying it. And then the Condors, I believe a buddy of mine, McLaren, is a goalie on that team, and I happen to think he's a pretty good goalie. So it leads me to believe, like, what's going on with the Condors' defense? I mean, if you got a decent goalie and you're still giving up this many goals, like, you guys are not protecting your tendy. You guys need to do something to move on from that. And then a quick look at uh, the divisions for playoffs. I mean, it's only going into week 5, but as it sits, Bears, Tigers, Thunderbirds, and Bruins for the Atlantic. North, Senators, Crunch, Marlies, Comets. It's all subject to change, so really I wouldn't put too much stock into this at the moment until about week 7 or 8. All right, moving on from the standings. Now we'll go over some of the LG's power rankings, I'll say, because if I was doing them, I probably would rank it a little differently, but they have their own way of doing it, so we will check that out. All right. So first things first, the Who's Hot. My boy Matt Sab, 15-15, coming in, getting a medal, number 1. What a guy. Gets the medal. He gets 16 points on the week. 8 goals plus 11. 5 points. Damn. It's a pretty solid week. Lobo Dangles, I remember he was up here a lot last season. 3-0 on the week, 17 points, plus 11. Not bad. Maple Leafs, 1981. Not familiar with this guy, but I'll tell you what, if he keeps putting up weeks like this, I'll definitely make sure to jot him down. 14 points, plus 9. Seems like someone else probably might have took that medal, but according to LG, he earned it, so congrats, man. And then pulling up the rest of the list, you got, I don't even know how to say this name, Psaris, maybe, 3-0, 12 points. You got my boy Chowski from the Bears, 3-0, 16 points, plus 15. Makes me wonder, how does he not get in the top? But hey, he's pretty close. KJ Sniper, Faraday's buddy. Some of these guys I haven't heard of. Mchu 89. Yeah, Nismo, Air Raiders. I played for Keeps. My boy Kitty, number 12. I'm impressed. 3-0, plus 10. 9 points. Not bad. Then you got Bonesop, Fist My Face. I don't know, Fist My Ace. Some of these names, I wonder what people are thinking when they make them. 12 points, Lewis, 3-0, 10 points, Nazi Two-Face, 3-0, 9 points. So, from what I'm getting from this list, pretty much, is you pretty much got to go 3-0 to make the Who's Hot list. So, now that we went over some of the players on the Who's Hot list, I guess we could take a look on the Who's Not forward. Probably a crappy list to be on, but starts off the first 4 players from the Baby Pens. Not hard to believe that they're in last. I know Steel 243. Seems like the Pens are pretty much dominating this list. So, guess for a reason. Oh wow, user picks on there. 0-3. That's kind of surprising. I didn't think I'd see him on there. Alright, next we'll move on to Who's Hot defense. Earning a medal this week, Puck U 33, 9 points plus 15. I gotta say, if your D-man's putting up 9 points and he's plus 15, I love playing that guy's team any day. Like that's good stuff, man. I love when my defenders can shut people down, but I really love it when they can help put points on the board. Anything helps. Then you got Mr. Zigglenuts. Oh, that's a fun name to say. He's got 7 plus 7. Not bad. Right D plus 7. And then you got T Saints. He's got 4 points plus 3 and also a medal on the week. So congrats to those guys. Taking a look at the rest of the list. You got Marks, Jay Morris, Soul Too Cold, Team Run 420, Bry, T-Ball, another monster defender. That's probably why they're doing so well. Matt 139139, 3-0. Yeah. Seems like a common trend over here too. As long as you go undefeated in the week, you got a pretty good shot at ending up on LG's hot list. Oh, you got some Hershey Bears players. Bobata, Quooks. He's an ECU, so that's surprising. Heather LB's up here. So a lot of familiar names on the defensive side, but then again, there's probably half as left defenders as there is forwards, so pretty much everyone knows who the good ones are. Moving on to the who's not defense. Hey, I know this guy, Salt Sniper. He was my AGM in season 2, pulling up number 1 on who's not. That's gotta hurt. Then you got Drox, JG, King Dano. Too bad you don't get a medal for being like the worst who's not player. That'd be pretty funny. LR, Crazy LR. Patrick Cocaine, T Posey, TR Misery, Thunder Thumbs, MN Wild. Hey, a bear, plus size pounders on there. So it seems like on the who's not list, on defense at least, it's kind of a mix of a bunch of teams compared to the forward where it was pretty much dominated by the Baby Pens. Alright, moving on to who's hot goalie. Always one of my favorite sections to check. After playing goalie season 2, I feel for these guys. They play a lot of games, and especially in this game, in my opinion, compared to 16, playing goalie is a lot tougher, especially if your defense don't help you out. So, props to these guys for putting up big games here. To start off the list, we got SW Bobcats from the Monsters. He is 3-0. Leads me to believe he's the backup goalie. 29 saves, .67 goals against average, 93.5 save percentage. That's pretty beast mode right there. I tip my hat to you, SW Bobcats. And so does LG. You earned the medal. Number 2, you got Primetime Fresh. Oh, that's interesting. From the Ice Hogs, 3-1-1. He's playing this good. You'd think they'd win more games, but that tip my hat to him big time for putting up such a good week on a team that's struggling to get by. Then you got the Bingham Senators goalie, Vizina. Pretty solid week, 3-1, 36 saves, 1.26 GAA. A little shy of 90% save percentage with 87.8. Still pretty solid numbers. Oh, he's got 2 shutouts though. Hey, must have gave up some goals in the other 2 games to get a save percentage like that though. And then rounding out the list, you got Camelot 28, 3-0, 28 saves, pretty stout. Belay 91, 4-0, 40 saves, pretty good. So Painter, DC Lumpy, Costom. I don't know how to say that guy's name from the Heat, but went 2-1. Pretty solid week. I'm noticing that I don't see many goalies on this list who play 6 games besides DC Lumpy. I mean, I think that's kind of, I guess, biased by the LG site, but then again, maybe not all the goalies on all the teams play 6 games, but I feel like a starting goalie should probably get maybe a little bit more props than the guys who only play 3 games a week because they got double the workload. So, I mean, they got double the chance of getting shittier stats. So, well, anyways, hats off to DC Lumpy. Played all 6 games, 61 saves, 2.22 goals against. That's a pretty low number. Can't ask for much more from your goalie. And we're going to skip the who's not goalie list because that's a really tough position, and I don't feel like putting anyone on blast. That's a tough spot to play. Oh, we'll skip over the contract studs and duds and move right on to team MVPs. Surprise, surprise, team MVP number 1, the guy up there with a medal already, Matt Sabb. Lobo Dangles for the Syracuse Crunch. SW Bobcats. Oh, goalie. Nice. For the Monsters. Maple Leafs coming on there for the Griffins. Chowski for the Bears. Congrats to you, Chowski. Pretty beast mode week. Primetime Fresh for the Hogs. Another goalie. M. Chu for the Wolves. 3-0 as a right wing. Vizina, 3-1 goalie. Senators. What's it, the Texas Stars, Belai, another goalie. I gotta say, there's a lot of goalies on this list. Usually there's not so many of them. Some goalies must have had some big weeks. For the Barracuda, you got Mr. Zigglenuts, Kitty King for the Heat, Fist My Ace for the Wolfpack, Lewis 222 for the Manitoba Moose, T Saints for the Roadrunners, another goalie, USAF Merzinski 21 for the Admirals, 1-1. That's gotta say something about your team when you're the hottest guy on your team is a 1-1 goalie. Is your team MVP? Like that's gotta be rough. Bry 2230 for the Thunderbirds. Oh, here I know this guy. Sam OOMX, goalie for the Rain. Putting in a good week. Czech Sniper for the Ice Caps. 1-1. Yeah. The M Cappy, Sound Tigers, I Call So What, Utica, the Wild West 20 VT, the Marlies, Dirty Deeds. Pretty decent 2-1 week as a center. Then you got Cougars hockey for the, what was that, Rampage? Yep. Brink for the Checkers, Toadstooler for the Condors. Man, rock out, McGlock out, I guess, with the Rochester Americans. Tyler Loki for the Phantoms, GG Joey Albany. Cobra Ripple for the Bruins. I'm just taking my best shot at that one. And for the Pens, the hottest player is a guy who's ice cold, but he's the best ice cold player on the team. It's Dofairs 2000. Good job being the best player on your squad there, pal. Maybe, hopefully you could rally your guys and get some help. Well, now we're going to move to a word from our sponsors while I take a minute to catch my breath. Be right back.
Are you a heavy weed smoker? Are you Millennium.
And that was a word from my sponsor, Hydro Drops. Head down to the local store and pick some up. Anyways, moving on to the next section of the show. I probably won't always be covering trades, but I just thought there were some interesting trades this week. If you haven't heard already, there was basically a team for a team trade. I didn't really look to see if half of them were TC or if they were all roster, but I know a few guys from this trade right here, from the Sound Tigers to the Gulls. I know half of those guys were starters. I mean, I'm not sure about the rest, like Mafia Man, Mega Fresh. I know those two guys were starters. I don't know about all the rest, but I gotta say, I'd love to talk to either of these guys. I did contact Deer Hunter and ask him if he could be on the show, but he let me know that he could not. He was busy doing farming, apparently. So good luck to him doing that. Couldn't get a hold of Robo, but I would love to ask him why they thought such a huge trade was necessary. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do to make the playoffs and try to win the whole thing, right? So I don't blame anyone for doing any kind of trade. Just like to know what they were thinking when they did it. It's pretty understandable, if you ask me. So we'll get down to there in a minute. So we got Boston Sean for Magic Man. That doesn't seem too important. Newfie Kanata and Slime Man heading to San Antonio for Rocket, Razor Red, and Jay Rick. I know Newfie. He's a goalie. He's a decent guy. Shows up, plays his games. Doesn't always have the best of luck in net, but I tell you what, when he's playing good, he plays good, but when he plays bad, he plays shitty. No offense, Newfie. Just saying what I've seen from last season, buddy. Slime Man, I'm not too familiar with him or any of these other guys. Let's see. All right, the big trade. Heineken's Hell Ninja. Team run 420, man 060. Blake Dangles. Heading over to the Sound Tigers for Killer QC. Kinger Man 17, Mega Fresh Squatches, and Mafia Man. I know Mafia Man is a good player, but I think he's having issues with how many games a week he can make, or his availability, I guess, or how many games he's available for, I should say. Mega Fresh, I remember seeing him up on the points leaderboard earlier in the season, but I think he's kind of fallen off, so maybe he just had a quick start. Can't really say. I know Hell Ninja was on our team in the beginning of the season, so he seems to be jumping around for a few teams. I thought he was a decent player. Hopefully he finds a home. The rest of these guys, I'm not too familiar with. So, I gotta say, the Gulls, I guess, trying to get a huge goal scorer with Mafia Man. I'm probably looking for that production there. Hopefully Mega Fresh can carry over some of what he did in the beginning of the season. And the Sound Tigers, my guess would be they're looking to do anything to jumpstart their team. I mean, they're in a division where it's pretty much all flat except for one team. So I guess anything that get your team in the win category will be helpful. Hopefully this trade works out for them. Moving on, we have the Condors trading Ulch 1989 and Dark Angel to the Phantoms for Yo I'm Corey. Now I gotta say, 2-for-1. I've been playing with Yo I'm Corey. He's a pretty good player. Played some club games with him actually just recently, and he's like a Swiss utility knife. I know in LG you got to play position lock, but he's pretty much good anywhere on the ice. So I'd imagine, I don't know what position he signed up for this season, but I gotta imagine that this is gonna be a good trade for the Condors, pulling him in. Also, I gotta say, Dark Angel, he was with me last season on the Wolves. I found him to be a pretty good player. He was doing pretty good for most of the season, but when we started to hit that snag of losing games midway to the end of the season, I felt like he kind of got a little disheartened with it, or maybe he was just frustrated, but he didn't seem to be playing with that same explosive power he had in the first half of the season. I will say that the Phantoms are getting a quality guy. If they could get him to play like he knows how he can play, he will definitely be worth that trade for sure. Okay, next trade. You got the Crunch with the Admirals. This probably is a TC trade. I haven't really heard of many of these guys. Admirals again. Cinema for Beast. Here's, I guess, another bigger trade. It seems like Galley's on the move this week. I believe he was on the Monsters. Now he's moving from the Sound Tigers to the Senators, which, in my opinion, Senators are already a pretty good team, so adding Galley, who's already been having a pretty stellar season, probably doesn't do nothing but help them. I'm not sure who Nutty Outlaw is, but my guess is either he's got to be a good forward or a good defender, because probably defense is probably what they need on the Sound Tigers squad. Moving on. The Griffins trade Weapon C-181 for Steezy. Not a huge trade in my opinion. I could go either way with that trade. No clear winner or loser there. Same thing for this trade. Sometimes probably just trying to get some TC death on some of these teams. The Texas Stars trading 3 for 1. Ramsbason, Silent Killer, Big Jim's Revenge. I know Rams from back in season 2. He's a defender. He's not terrible. Don't know much about these two guys. For Jordas, I don't know how to say that guy's name, but I'll tell you what, Texas must really want that guy if they're willing to trade 3 guys away for one guy. TC or not, I mean, that's a lot of players for one guy. Hopefully he can live up to it. Moving on to the next one, Punisher for Price. Price is leaving the Pens, going to the Condors. So for Punisher, who is leaving the Condors and going, I mean, which way do you go with that trade? I mean, you're going basically from one division, from the bottom of one division to the bottom of the next division. I doubt either player really feels either way about that trade. I mean, might as well just stay where you're at, but I'm sure the GMs feel differently. All right. Oh, here we go. Condors trade Griznectar for Gatino Freak and Joey Nova. Now, I will say the Griznectar was a player I was shooting for and bidding. He got bid up. I got a feeling I know why. I'm guessing fucking DeGraves had something to do with that, because he was on the Condors in the beginning of the season. Made Griznectar, his contract's really high, so. But the Sound Tigers seem to have the salary cap for him. And then they're also unloading Gatino and Joey Nova. Gatino, I remember him from season 2 as well. He plays defense. I don't really know much about Nova, but I know Gatino can, in the right situation, could be a pretty solid defender, although I've seen him traded a few times already this season. Let's see if there's any more trades I want to talk about here. Fisher for QCMC Seb. Don't know much about that. My guess is TC. Trade reversal. Huh. Apparently, the Goals and the Rampage had a trade reversed. I wish they would explain why, but, I guess trade reversal is all I need to know. And as well as you guys. Here's Freeze making a move. Molson Q for No Blood from the Wolves. Interdivision trade. I always wonder some GMs, do they try to stay away from in-division trading? It doesn't seem like so in our virtual league, but I gotta say, in real life, I know a lot of teams usually don't trade in between divisions because then you gotta play the guy. And everybody knows, everyone hears it in football, hockey, all that stuff when you watch it on TV. They're like, oh, this guy was on it, he's trying to have a big game. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I mean, that carries over to here, but people get traded so much, it's got to be hard to have a chip when your chips are constantly getting tossed around. All right. Next trade, we got God of Nugget for B-Mac Attack 2389. Yeah, I'm guessing that's TC trade. Never heard of any of these guys. Oh, yeah, here's where Galley got traded for Derms. Not surprising move here. Freeze had Derms on his team last season. Obviously, he feels that he needed him back, and Galley was the man to go. I'm sure it's going to work out for Freeze because apparently from the last two seasons, seems like all the moves he makes seem to work out for him. So kudos to him on what he's doing. This is a TC trade. Yeah. We're going to scan through here. Oh, Insanity got traded. Insanity and RJ81 for Philly Gonna Spank You. I should see how that trade turns out. I know Jan had a good start, but I haven't seen much out of him in the recent weeks. So, my guess is it's probably a good trade for both teams. Albany gets two players, and they're in desperate need of some kind of a spark. Utica, a solid team, adding a solid player. Well, oh, you got Pooler for Codester. That's a pretty even trade there. Can't really say much about that. Both decent players. Alright, that's about it for trades on the week. So, next I want to move on to a little thing I like to call the team spotlight. My team spotlight this week is the San Diego Gulls, as I'm sure you just saw. There we go. Now, the reason why I highlighted the San Diego Gulls for this week is because they went 8-2. It's a huge streak. They're fighting for position. And in my opinion, it's way more interesting to see a team fighting for their playoff lives already this early in the season and straight battling, especially when one of the teams they're battling against is the Calder Cup champions from last season. Like I said earlier in the show, they nudged them out this week. Got a 2-point lead to take that 4th place spot. They're going to need another big week, I'm sure, to stay ahead of the Heat. The Heat is a decent team. But anyways, let's break down this team a little bit, see what's going on in the goals. I got GM Deer Hunter, good player, 43 points, 8-4 on the season, solid start, plus 19. Matt Sabb, buddy of mine, knew him before I started playing LG, and he's plus 14, 38 points. Captain, the other captain, Trash Clown, tried to get him on the show, but unfortunately he was busy. Figured I'd talk to him about what it's like to go from the Heat to being a captain on a team. Maybe I could get a hold of him later in the week. Anyways, he's 11-11-1, 23 games played. It's quite the workload. Must be nice to have any team who I'm sure is lacking a workhorse goalie. I would like to know how nice it is to have a workhorse goalie like this. Me having Moose on my team, I know it's great compared to last season, to where it seemed to be in constant flux. Moving on, center Ajax 5-5-1, Boogeyman 3-6-1, Camelot, their other goalie 9-4-1, not bad record. EPV, he was on our team earlier this season. Didn't really get to play in any season games. Got traded here, and he seems to have found a home. Not bad record, 4-1-1. 6 games played, 4 points. Can't beat that. I play for keeps. Right wing 8-2-2. Jay Morris 8-4-0. Killer QC. He was one of the trades I talked about earlier, so that's why he's got no stats. He's new on the squad, along with Mafia Man. Both guys joining the team, looking to help the goals advance. Max 20, 8-2-1, 36 points. Not bad. Two more, or another, not two more, one more new addition, Mega Fresh, another trade we talked about earlier. He has decent stats. I know he does. Like I said from earlier in the season, I know it's not showing here, but if he could play like he did earlier in the season for these guys, I could see the goals really improving the roster with Mafia, him. Slow Mobius, I'm pretty familiar with him. He was on the Chicago Wolves with me last season. I thought he was one of the better defenders on our team that season. His record isn't really showing that right now. He's 4-7-1, but I wouldn't count him out. Soul Too Cold, 8-4, lefty. Squatches, the other new guy from the trade. Timebot, 5-5. Tommy LeGamer QC. I'm guessing he's French. They love using that Lee stuff. All right. So yeah, goals, man. I mean, that's a pretty solid roster. And then going over some of these trades they made, I mean, I really can't see a reason to count these guys out. Like if I was the Heat or the Stars of the Rain or Barracuda, I would definitely be keeping an eye on the goals right now. Like I said, they went 8-2 in their last 10. They're on the move. I know they ended the week with a one loss, but I would look for these guys to rebound. The only thing I would say that's going to be tough for every team in this division this week is they're going up against the other Western Central. This is the Western Pacific. They're going against the West Central, and I mean, there's good teams in both divisions, so both divisions going to have a hard week. I'm not trying to say just this side of things is going to have a hard week. Everyone's going to have a hard week, but I'll tell you what, I'll be interested to see at the end of the week which teams come out of all those games on the plus side. Because in my opinion, the top 4 or 5 teams in this division, are pretty much a mirror match. The only one I guess I would say has a slight edge would maybe be Cleveland, because they seem to be a pretty solid team. They might be slightly better than any team in both of those divisions at this point in my division. I mean, my opinion. But I guess we'll see at the end of the week. I'll tell you what, I would definitely be interested to see. So the schedule, as I said, there you go. You got the Rampage inter-division match. And then here we go. It's the Western Central. You got the Griffins, the Wild, the Moose. Yeah, so they're already playing a bunch of the top teams from that division early in the week. So if they can get through these first couple games without taking too many L's, they could pull it out. If we look at what they've done so far in the season, see their first week they didn't have a great week, only stringing together 3. Same thing for week 2. But then bam, here they come, coming on, turning it up, week 3. And it looks like that was a week they played their own division, most of the majority of the games, and they tore it up. Week 4, hey, they beat Hershey 4-1. They really gave it to pretty much all the teams in this week, except the Moose. The Moose edged them out 4-2. And it looks like the Wolves got them 4-3 right at the end of the week. I gotta say, that's a pretty solid 2 weeks. If they could put together some more weeks like that, sky's the limit for these guys. So moving on to this week, like I said, they're playing the West Central, so then you got the Wild, the Moose. They got a pretty easy night on Tuesday, Admirals and Ice Hogs. I'm not counting these guys out. I'm just saying, judging by how things are already going, these guys are on the lower side of things. Then it's going to pick back up for them in Checkers and the Monsters, and they're going to finish out with the Wolves, which, in my opinion, could be a deceptively hard team because they started off slow, but like I said earlier in the show, they are seeming like they're putting things together. So that might be a tough game at the end of the week, but with some of these new moves, the goals made, it could be just what the doctor ordered for them. Honestly, I can't fault them for making any of those trades. They all seem to be good trades, in my opinion. All right, so that's ran a little longer than I was hoping to, but I gotta say, it feels like a pretty successful first show for me. A lot of talking. I'm definitely gonna have to drink a few beers after this to cool off. But yeah, before I go, I just want to say it's a big week 5 coming up. A lot of big games. West Central's playing the West Pacific, and the East Atlantic's playing the East. Can't remember the name of it, but they're playing them. So a lot of tough games. A lot of good games to look forward to this week. I know I'll be on the site, definitely checking out some games. If any of you guys want to holler at me and let me know a game was good so I could go back and watch it later, because it's hard to watch all of them at the same time, let me know. Be interested to look in and put stuff in for my next show. And that's pretty much going to do it for me. This is Mad Dog Madness 26 signing off, saying stay the fuck out of my crease. Alright, until next time.